Hello and welcome to our lesson 1.4 on sampling methods. And what I want to show you is these are the two main ideas that are going to be covered for these 2 weeks. And we're doing data collection today. We're going to move over to understanding what bias is and how to work with that, but that's not in this lesson. So we're talking about how data collection methods can affect the data, and there are attributes that we want to look at and manage. We don't want to spend too much time and money on a survey, but we also want to make sure it's got good quality. So anyway, we're going to talk about methods. We're going to focus on survey, but if you wanted to survey people, how would you do so is kind of the main idea. So we'll start with understanding what data collection methods are, and there are 5. We can do experiments, observations, and interviews. Document analysis, which would be looking at past information and trying to see patterns. And then what we're going to focus on is surveys. So in surveys, so we're not doing these 4, we're focusing on surveys. There are a few types, 5 here that we're going to show. A voluntary response. A voluntary response, people choose themselves by responding to a general invitation. Um, there's obviously opportunities for people to be involved there, but we don't know if we're going to get a good representation of them. We can cluster, which is making subgroups based on location. It's kind of convenient, but we're hoping that we get a good random survey of people. So we cluster people by location. Convenience, I should have covered that one second. Convenience and voluntary are generally not good ones, okay? So voluntary response and convenience, they work, but they're not good ways to make sure we have a good random representation. And in the convenience, the researcher just chooses samples based on ease or who they think should be included. So there's room for some um, opinion there or subjectivity. And then these are our 2 best ones, sample random simple random sample, SRS, simple random sample. Start with a list, then randomize who is chosen. Everyone has an equal chance. So we find people that, or a population that, a sample size, a sample that we can use, and then we try to randomly choose out of them. And then finally, a stratified random, we make subgroups based on similarities or certain characteristics. I think I like the word characteristic better than similarities. And then we choose this, then we do this simple random sample for each group. So this is a good one. This is even better, okay? For instance, so to try to think about some of this, you want to sell t-shirts for homecoming. After deciding on an excellent design, you need to buy enough of each size, but not too much of any one size. You don't want to have extras. So you survey students to determine the amount of each size. In this scenario, an example of a convenience would be you ask your friends, and if you're on the basketball team, it's possible that your friends are really tall or have the same similar sizes, and you may not get a good representation of all the people that could buy a homecoming t-shirt. So convenience, you'd get an idea, but it may cause some problems. Voluntary, place a box with slips in the front of the school and ask. I mean, this is going to have people who are showing up at the school, but maybe not people that are really interested in buying t-shirts, but that would be a voluntary way we could ask. If we did a cluster, we could ask all students in one of your classes, or you could even ask all students in all of your classes. We would ask all the students, so that's a key. If you noticed, a cluster is broken out by location, whereas stratified is broken out by a characteristic. We find a group of people, we ask all students. For a stratified random, we would break into groups not on location but on characteristics, like make sure we have a group of boys and girls and freshmen, sophomore, junior, senior. We want to spread out our groupings based on some characteristics rather than just a location. Simple random, this is again our one of our good ones here. We asked one student from each table in the lunchroom. Assuming all students go to the lunchroom, you've got the whole population down there, and then you randomly go to each table. Obviously, a table might have some bias to it, or some groupings that aren't very random because people are sitting together that they want to. And then finally, stratified, you could have a teacher ask 5 students from each of their classes. I don't know, maybe you could have all teachers. Let's do that. Let's call this have all teachers ask 5 students from each of their classes, because you're going to be catching the entire population of the school, but you're doing it in kind of a random way there. So these are the ideas that we're going to be using when we try to determine information for a whole population by just looking at a sample. And now you have some homework problems you can look at. There was some classwork also. What you're asking yourself is, there are 5 options. Sometimes more than one applies, but as you read through those, ask yourself which ones would not apply, and that will filter down to usually a couple options. And then if you can give good justification for how your answer fits, you'll be in good shape. Okay, well, we'll see you in class.